Okay, I wanted to talk to you about diminished seventh chords today. To start out with, what is a diminished seventh chord? Well, it is a chord, usually a 4-note chord, stacked all in minor thirds, okay? And so the formula for this chord would be 1, flat 3, flat 5, diminished 7. Okay, and how does that compare to some of the other, voicings that you might know? Well, here's B minor 7 flat 5, which is 1 flat 3, flat 5, flat 7, of course. And so this one is just a little different. It has that diminished 7 instead. Again, all minor thirds. All right. Occasionally you may see a diminished chord spelled with, well, not more than occasionally, with not just minor thirds, but an augmented second. Notice that A flat is the same as G sharp. So this is what we call an enharmonic spelling. Okay, but this could look like a sixth, right? B up to G sharp could look like a sixth, but because it's in the context of a diminished 7 chord, we would call it a diminished 7 instead. So there's my 1 flat 3, flat 5, diminished 7 again. And just to point out, here's a B6 chord, B, D sharp, F sharp, G sharp. It has that same G sharp, right? The 6th chord, the 6 is the same as the diminished 7. Okay, but back to this one, diminished 7s, all minor thirds. If you go from this note up to another minor third, you come back to the note you started with. So it's a symmetrical structure. So here you will see that here are 3 different versions of the C diminished chord. You'll see this sometimes when teachers are trying to mess with you. Look at all these double flats. Okay, so that's technically a diminished 7 spelled with all minor thirds. But what you will see is in most lead sheets and voicings and stuff, composers will write it more user-friendly, and they'll start to write enharmonically. So again, this B double flat has been written as an A. And so you could even write the G flat as an F sharp. Okay, so you will see some enharmonic spelling with diminished chords. Okay? All right, now how do diminished chords function? There's a little handout. This should be on the OL page. And so it shows that these are the possibilities for the diminished 7th chords. These are the ones that work a lot. Going from a 1 chord to a sharp 1 to a 2 minor, for example. And then from a 2 minor to a sharp 2, and then to a 3. So notice that chromatic passing motion in the bass. These diminished chords are usually in the middle of a 3-note kind of chromatic passage here. 4 goes to sharp 4, and then to 5. And 5 goes to sharp 5. Here we go. And then to 6. Okay, so these are what we call ascending diminished because they're going up to their target chord by half step. Okay, and likewise, there are a couple that are common that are descending diminished, where we're on a 6 chord, we go to a flat 6, and then to a 5, for example. Or we're on a 3, we go to a flat 3, diminished, and then to a 2. But you see, there's still that chromatic bass motion that is really part of the deal with these passing diminished. Okay, 3, flat 3, 2, 6, flat 6, 5. Okay. Just want to do a little brief. Inversions are common after a diminished 7. So if you go 1, flat, sharp 1 to 2, sometimes you'll get this chord instead, which that was a 5 over the 5th. It still has the 2 note in the bass, so in the key of C, it still has the D in the bass, but there's a different kind of chord. So a 5 chord in second inversion will give you the same bass note, D and D, all right? If you're going from 2 to sharp 2, to sharp 2, and then to 3, often you'll get a tonic chord in first inversion. So a tonic chord with a 3rd in the bass. Again, it has 3, it has scale degree 3 in the bass, so it's a good replacement. And these primary chords, the tonic and the dominant, are more common and they reinforce the tonality. So All right, if you're on a 5, and if you're on a 4 to a sharp 4, when you come to a 5, usually you quite often get a tonic chord in second inversion, so a 1 over the 5th. And finally, the last thing to say about, before we go on to a few examples written, is that a sharp 1 diminished is almost like a 5/7 of 2. We'll find that out in a minute. I'll show you. A sharp 2 is almost like a 5/7 of, that should say 3. Shoot. I'm going to see if I can change it right now, actually. It should say 3. So 5/7 of 3. Here we go. 5/7 of 3. Okay. And sharp 4 diminished 7 is almost like 5/7 of 5, and sharp 5 diminished 7 is almost like 5/7 of 6. So these passing diminished function very similarly to the secondary dominants, and I'm going to show you that in just a minute. Okay. All right. So let's go over to here, and what I've got here is I want to start out with the ascending diminished. Okay. That's what we're going to study at the beginning of class. So if we're going from a C chord, a 1 to a 2 chord, what goes in between? A sharp 1 diminished 7 is very common at that place. So C sharp diminished 7, I'm going to spell it with all minor thirds. Okay, C sharp to E, E to G, G to B flat. Those are all minor thirds, so that gives us the ascending diminished 7. Okay, between D and E, we're going to write a D sharp diminished 7. That will be sharp 2 diminished 7. I'm putting them all at once because I just want you to see a lot of examples, but you know, you would use these just here and there, of course. Just like any other thing, you don't want to overdo it, but this is an example. This is sharp 4 diminished 7. We're just learning about these, so I want to show you a ton of them at once. Okay. So again, all minor thirds over here, all minor thirds here, and then to a G, and then to a G sharp diminished, fully diminished 7, G sharp diminished 7. That's a sharp 5 diminished 7, and then we go to our 6 chord and our 4/5/1 cadence I just put on the end. Okay, now you'll notice that there's no passing diminished 7 between E and F. Notice that this is only a half step here, so we can't fit in a diminished 7 unless we want to do like some quarter tone work with like a Dave Fuczynski or somebody else at Berkeley doing that kind of stuff. Okay, no, so there's no half step in between these. This is just it's a half step from E to F. All right, so that's what this pattern. And of course, you know, it could be more, you know, popular. That's all right. And F. You know, that was kind of not my best work, but anyway, it'll give you an idea of, you know, you put some rhythm to these things and they can kind of be interesting. Now, I was talking about the fact that, you know, secondary dominants are very similar to passing diminished, and just to think about that for a second, what if we put an A down here? Then this would be A7 flat 9, and that would be 5/7 of 2. Okay, so just by adding this note in the bass, go a major third lower, now we have all the notes of the 5/7 of 2 chord. What about this? Put a B7 here, you get a B7 flat 9, and that's 5/7 of 3. All right, if we take the F sharp, put a D, you go a major third lower, then we've got the notes of the D7 flat 9, and that is going to be and that is going to be 5, 7 of 5. All right, and if we, again, you know, I'm just doing them all so you see them all. So E7, flat 9 is going to be 5, 7 of 6. Okay, so, you know, here's that sound, which you've heard probably in Harmony 2. It's a more solid sound because we have everything in root position. So that, so you see how similar these secondary dominants are to the passing diminished chords. Okay, so that'll give you a little brief introduction to diminished sevens, and there's going to be a couple of other videos on the OL as well. All right.